I just
Good.
wasn't sure what all y'all talked about. Oops, sorry.
What we're talking about is Shop Talk. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Shop Talk. You're not a special guest star because you're a host, but I guess you're like a special host because it's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome in, Tracy.
Hello, everyone.
And unfortunately, Mala and Mike were not here because we can't have the entire group here at once. It's sort of like a designated survivor situation. Also, I have turned up the gain on my microphone. We'll see if it actually helps at all, or if you hear all the banging noises as I'm messing around with stuff here. But welcome in, Anders. Shop Talk. If this is your first time here, welcome. Shop Talk is basically our chance to kick back on a Monday after work if you're on the East Coast, in the middle of work if you're on the West Coast, and talk a little bit tech, talk SQL Server, data platform, and several other things along the way. Probably a few rants, but we'll see. So, as is my want, I'm going to start us off with a an article. Technically, it's a series of articles. So, I'm going to share my screen and you'll see very quickly what it is. So this is actually a series that the folks at Straight Path Solutions have been doing. It's 30 SQL Server security checks in 30 days. And for each day so far in the month of June, they've had a blog post, including weekends, which I don't know. I don't believe in technical blogging on the weekend. That's a Monday through Friday thing. But Jeff Iannucci and David Seiss, they have none of that. They want to do 30 posts in 30 days, and I'm okay with that. Mostly because I'm not the one writing them. So I just dropped in the link to the series. It starts off here with disabling that SA login, kind of making sure that you probably don't want the SA account to exist. You have to have an SA account, but it doesn't have to be called SA. And actually, one of the fun little tricks that I've pulled is that you rename SA to something else, some sort of administrative account. Even better if it's not a very obvious name like admin. And then you create a new account called SA that has no rights at all. Anders is already butt-butting.
You know what's fun to do is rename your guest account to SA and then make your guest account
Your
flip
SA
flop
account is
them.
guest.
That's yeah. That's the fun way to do it.
That will work. That will work. But how am I going to break into the server after I leave without SA? You create your own account. I mean, you have some Windows authenticated account sitting somewhere that happens to be in the local administrators group for all of the SQL Server instances, and nobody knows what that account is because it's something like BR14460407-6. And they're like, I don't know what this account is for, but I don't want to mess with it because it may break something. And that's Anders's break glass in case of emergency. By emergency, I mean I want to steal your data account. Then you put a login trigger for old SA that prints out mwahaha. That would work as well. That would work as well. But this is actually, they do a good job here of walking through. I would not say this is 500 level intense security internals, but what it is good things for administrators to keep in mind, like understanding, hey, control server is very, very similar to sysadmin. If you grant somebody control server on an instance, you might as well grant them sysadmin because there's only a couple of things that sysadmins can do that somebody with control server cannot. And few of those things are really relevant. It's a similar story with security admin, where technically security admin can't do a lot, but security admin can
Give themselves
effectively,
this admin.
yeah, can grant sysadmin. So that's a scenario where, do you really need the sysad or the security admin role? And yeah, actually, here's the article Jeff Iannucci put in on security admin role members, what they can and cannot do, and basically does a pretty good job of listing out, hey, if it's possible, just don't have anyone in the security admin role because you probably don't need it. The tasks that people would perform in this are probably sysadmin tasks anyhow. And I've never worked at an organization where they have security admin role. It's always you give sysadmin to the people who need it, and you have role-based access controls and groups to control what other people get.
Yeah,
And
have you ever had anybody in security that actually understands database security?
Yes.
That's not a database person.
Maybe. That qualifier.
Said in the security department that understands database security, because that's who that role is intended for, is people that don't work on the databases that are in the security department to take care of the security, but they tend to not understand database security.
Yeah.
So just don't put anybody in it, because that's who it's for. And we all know most of our security people don't understand the fine tuning of database security. They know the basics, but not the detail enough to be able to take care of it. So just don't use it.
Right. So Andrew says, most places I've taken over, if just the level 100 security were in place, it would be a better place. Yeah. The security roles for app installs give security for logins used for the application. I don't know. Just have administrators do administrative things. This article about modifying the SQL Server public role, I actually do want to talk a little bit about that. Not so much about the article. The article's fine. But it's a good jumping off point because there are still tools that will check and say, oh my gosh, you have given permissions to the public role. So, yeah, of course I have. It's called connect. So by default, the public role gets connect, which means you're allowed to connect to SQL Server if you have the appropriate permissions, and you're allowed to connect to a database. So if you do not have connect, you can't use a database, which means I've actually broken this in the past because there was a tool in the past, in a past life as a DBA, that said, hey, you really shouldn't have any rights on public. So I revoked all rights on public. Well, the right on public was grant connection. So what happened is very quickly I started getting calls and emails. Hey, I can't connect to the database anymore. What's going on? I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't change. Oh, crap. I did change something. And then, well, I want to fix this, but I'll do it the right way. I'm going to grant connect to the groups and logins that exist, which works okay until you have to create a new login, and then you forget that you have to grant connect because that's not an automatic part of creating a login in SQL Server. And it's kind of dumb. So basically, if some tool is telling you revoke all permissions on public, that tool is probably dumb. Just keep public. Don't add more stuff to public. Grant connect. It's okay. You've already said all the users, if you have a username and a password that is valid for this SQL Server instance, you should be able to use databases. You should be able to connect to databases. You can have more fine-grained permissions that say, no, not this database. Or, no, only these databases. You could set up those permissions for logins, but the idea of you may be authenticated, but you're not authorized to do anything seems weird. So that was a mistake that I made several jobs ago. And eventually I just granted connect back on public because it became more of a mess than it was worth. Because I don't understand a use case where you would have a login that could not connect.
So public is like our model DB for users.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to put it, yeah. It's better than granting execute to schema to public. Yeah, don't grant new things to public. Just just leave what's there and don't mess with it. That's my philosophy. Don't mess with public. Don't mess with the public. And actually, that is also David's point. Unfortunately, there's no margin here, so it's all very flush left. But modifying the public role by adding extra permissions might seem like a quick fix when dealing with permissions issues. However, doing so is fraught with danger, which is true. Oh my gosh. Speaking of fraught with danger, we have the one and only Mike Christensen. How you doing, Mike? Hello, Mike. You're on the air. Welcome in, caller.
I almost thought he was frozen.
Oh. So as we were saying, speaking of danger, here is Mike Christensen. How you doing, Mike?
Good. My middle name is Danger. Thank you. That's correct.
And your last name is Mouse, which is a little weird, but
Danger Mouse. Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a good cartoon. All right. We're talking about this 30 interesting notes about security in 30 days, and currently talking about just leave the public role alone. Don't take anything from it. Don't give anything to it. Just don't mess with it. General good life advice. Don't mess with it. It's not bothering you. Don't bother it. And there's a lot of other posts in here. Obviously, there's still another couple dozen days to go, or a dozen days to go in the month. So a baker's dozen of days, if you will. So they've got more posts lined up. The last one I want to point out is cross-database ownership chaining in SQL Server, a double-edged sword. It's a one-edged sword, and that one-edged sword says that you should go to modulesigning.info and use module signing instead of cross-database ownership chaining. That there's never a good reason to use cross-database ownership chaining. And I hope Solomon is in chat, because if I got a dollar every time I pushed modulesigning.info, I would have several dollars. No, more, admittedly, more than six. Many more than six. Not enough to retire on. I'm not that weird about it. But it's a fantastic website.
I have more copies of your Python book.
But you know what? I'm gonna promote it again. We're gonna get it on screen right here. So Solomon has done a fantastic job of putting together a series of resources explaining why you should not use things like trustworthy or cross database ownership chaining, why there's zero reason to use them, and what the appropriate answer is. Because there's this is all, it's in all caps, people. Reasons to avoid these methods.
It doesn't usually do that.
Yeah. There are a lot of reasons. There are good reasons to avoid doing it. And what is the answer? The answer is module signing. And so modulesigning.info goes through, and you have a nice explanation of all of the necessary prerequisites for understanding how this works. A bunch of answers Solomon has given across the board, and so on. Some additional references. So great resource if you're interested in learning more about how module signing works. It is an order of magnitude more difficult than just ticking a checkbox or execute as, but it is also the approach that's going to actually be secure. So it's got that going for it. So that was the 30 Days of Security series, kind of halfway in the books. I do recommend checking that out. Good opportunity to refresh your knowledge of SQL Server administration and security. The next thing on my list, because I forget if we.
All right. Why you're segueing, and I apologize for being late, and I've been out for a variety of reasons. But is that Eric Darling? Is this part of a series?
Oh no, this is actually
it's just on DBA Stack Exchange or Straight Path.
Yeah, Straight Path Solutions. So they're a consulting company, and Jeff Iannucci and David Seiss are doing most of the blog posts in the series. So it is, I will once again, I'm asking you to drop a link in chat, and I'm dropping a link in chat. That's page 2. You might be able to find pages 1 and 3. I have
Awesome.
faith in your abilities.
Thank you.
So, next up on the list, I forget if I discussed this last time or not. I could not have discussed it last time, probably, because it looks like the
Pipe
blog post came out on the
operator.
4th. So, in case we have not talked about it, Unicode strings and the new concatenation operator in Azure SQL Database. So this is in preview, but it's available. It's public preview. 2 things. Number 1, well, 3 things. Number 1, I'm gonna zoom in so that font
The
size is
double
bigger.
pipe feels very Oracle to me.
Correct. The double pipe is actually the ANSI SQL operator for concatenation. So SQL Server uses a plus by default. Most other platforms use the double pipe. And I'm going to spoil things. I prefer the concat function over both of them. Because the plus and the pipe, the double pipe, operate exactly the same. This is just syntactic. This is just, I want to be able to copy some code from one platform and paste it into another platform and just have it work. And I understand that. ANSI SQL portability, there's some value in it. I'm very far from the largest proponent of portability in code. I would much prefer to have the most efficient, most effective code for the platform we're using. But if there is no performance difference and no practical difference and no difference in terms of ease of use,
It's just extra work. Yeah.
yeah, lean toward the ANSI SQL standard. So,
Right.
like if it was plus versus pipe, I mean, plus may be slightly easier to type, but it's not that big of a difference. And so, yeah, use pipe. If it's concat versus plus or pipe, concat gives you specific functionality, where if I scroll down just a little bit, we're going to scroll past the unistring because I want to talk about this concat first. So the pipe operator does not honor set concat null yields null. That is a difference. So that is a difference where plus and pipe will behave differently. If you have this option set to, I believe the ANSI standard is on. So if you set it to the opposite option, then you can get different behavior in the SQL Server concatenation based on which one you use. And apparently it also supports pipe equals, which is similar to plus equals. If the operands are incompatible collation, then it'll throw an error, just like regular concatenation in SQL Server. The collation behavior is identical to the concat function, but the outputs are not the same as the concat function. So if we have item null as item description, what you end up with is null, which is weird. Like you have Jose Do. Oh, whoops. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's not weird at all. It's just that the spacing
right.
here is,
Yeah, it scrolls to the right. Yeah.
well, the spacing is weird because Jose Do should be one line and then new line, order 1001, blah, 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 in a GUID. This is order details.
It's just wrapping is all it is. It's
Yeah.
wrapping weird.
So this third thing
Because
is,
it's a return of the data. It's just wrapping around so you can't tell where the columns start.
right, there should be new lines. But anyhow, item concatenate null gives you null. So just to let you know, this behaves like the plus operator, where if you have something in null, you get null, which I'm not a big fan of. So instead, I would wrap this in concat, and then we would have concat item comma null close parens, and you would get item hyphen. You would at least get something.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes sense.
So there are a few examples of how all of this works, and compatibilities. Andrew says pipe sounds like some crap out of RPG. You know what? It could actually be. It could. The other function.
Anders, you're being fresh. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that use Oracle, and I know that we don't talk about the O word, but I'm just sorry. They just exist, and you got to deal with it, Andrew.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's not just Oracle. It is actually the ANSI standard. So Oracle does it, MySQL does it, Postgres does it. They all do it. Now SQL Server on-prem currently doesn't do it. Azure SQL DB will do it currently in preview, which means I would expect SQL Server on premises vNext probably going to support it. And the other thing is UNISTR. Go ahead, Mike.
What do you mean by vNext?
The next version of SQL Server, whenever it comes out.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I thought you said vNext, which is like some thing that the .NET guys talk about all the time. Sorry.
Well, it's similar terminology. vNext as in next version, as in the version that's currently under development.
Right. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like the .NET Rocks guys.
Sure.
You've been a guest there, I think.
I've not. I don't think so. But yeah, so vNext as in the next version of whatever's currently being worked on, like
gotcha.
.NET vNext, which I think we're at .NET 8, so vNext will probably be numbered 9, but you know, that could be different. They always reserve the right to make it like they'll make it 95. Actually, what's next in .NET 9? Okay. So the next version will be .NET 9, but I figured it could be like .NET 95 and then .NET ME and
8.7.
Right. So Unicode string, takes a text literal or an expression of characters in Unicode values and resolves that character data returned as either UTF-8 or UTF-16 encoded strings. You can encode Unicode characters using the 4 character \4 characters or \6 characters, where 4 is a UTF-16 code point and 6 is a Unicode code point. So examples: hello, and then this little double code point gives you apparently creepy smiling face.
This is a little creepy.
It is a little bit creepy, but also.
Did he like open his mouth when you hovered over him?
No, it's just my mouse.
Oh, okay. That part creeped me out, and it looked like it went like Pac-Man.
That actually would be creepy, yeah. But we have.
I derail conversations.
You know what? It's what we do here. Welcome to Shop Talk, everybody.
Yeah, Shop Talk.
One of these days, we're just gonna start off the rails. We're gonna leave the rails behind and not even have rails.
Ooh, this sounds like fun. Make sure I come on that day.
And then there's another example of $, using $, as a defined escape character and a varchar character data type with UTF-8 collation. So $2665 is apparently a black heart.
Wow.
Using this collation, one of the
I wonder how you get a
UTF-8.
red heart.
I don't think you could
Things I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. You might have to just change the font color.
So I have a nitty-gritty question. So are you on? I'm looking at Unistring transact SQL for SQL Server. Are you on Azure SQL?
This functionality is specifically for Azure SQL.
Gotcha. Okay.
Specifically,
it's different. Database. I'm online and I'm seeing different stuff than you. So.
Yeah. So specifically, Azure SQL database. Azure
Gotcha.
SQL is a broader term that includes Azure SQL DB and Azure SQL Managed Instance, and technically also includes SQL Server in virtual machines running in Azure.
Yep. Technically includes everything in Azure that's SQL.
Right.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So this is available in Azure SQL DB, but it's not in Managed Instance or SQL Server. being
on-prem.
Yeah, on-prem or
Right.
in a VM in Azure.
Yeah. Because Azure SQL DB, they can kind of, push things to whenever they feel like it in preview mode and stuff. Because like this is in preview mode.
Yeah. So Solomon
All right,
says,
I'm with you.
Go ahead,
It's
Mike.
by Abu Montawari. It's by Abu. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. So being highly focused or obsessed, I would say obsessed, with encodings, Unicode, etc. I want to be excited about Unistring, but I'm disappointed. It seems like a solution rooted in not fully understanding the problem as well as current functionality. So, for example, half of the new functionality already exists and has already existed forever is just in varchar 0x. So you could use the hex encoding, say in varchar 0x delta 8 or 3 delta, and that's the equivalent of the unistring backslash delta 8 or 3 delta. And so you can do some of this functionality already. Yeah, I don't know how frequently I would use it, or if I go back to any of the jobs that I've worked at, I don't know that I would ever use it. So I don't really have a strong opinion either way, just because I think it's going to be a fairly uncommon case where people would make use of it. So I will defer to your obsession and anticipate that, yeah, they probably do not have the perfect solution. It would have been better if their syntax at least conformed to most other languages, which usually use /u for UTF-16, lowercase u, and /capital U for Unicode. Right, so Python, for example, I know uses that style for defining Unicode. But I don't know, I guess we have to have weird things.
So who's obsessed? Is that somebody on the chat?
Yeah, Solomon. So if you ever need to know anything about collations, Solomon is one of the foremost people in that area. Collations, module signing, and CLR, which 3 areas where not that many people hang their hats on, but you can certainly get in good debates.
What was the first one? Column signing?
Module signing at
CLR.
modulesigning.info. Also, adding the collation keyword to Unistring solves what problem exactly? It seems almost useless. I think, for this scenario, this was, well, we want to have varchar, but we want to make sure that it's UTF-8 collated, I suppose, because it is not compatible with legacy code pages. So I'm guessing for those databases where you have the standard SQL collation, that this might not work unless you explicitly collate it as a UTF-8. But that is a guess. I've not tried this in Azure SQL Database. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'd see it as more of a problem when bringing it back on premises. But it is a little messy. But hey, they found a use for UTF-8 in SQL Server. But here comes, it's all caps. It's an all caps but. So we are getting, for the first time ever,
From Solomon, all caps, or from
the
Andrew?
actual correct solution. It's for interfacing with Dynamics products. Okay. Well, that's reason enough not to love it. We're waiting with bated breath for the actual correct solution. Only on Shop Talk. This is where we could have an exciting commercial break. and then we could come back and be like, previously on Shop Talk. Simply allow standard escape sequences in string literals like \n, \t, \x, \u.
Like C, like in C or C++, right?
Yeah, or in Python or even in R, and yeah, uh, that would probably be a good idea. Next, Solomon is just going to say convert it to XML first.
Oh,
Now,
I'm leaving Shop Talk. Get out of here. I'm done. I'm kidding.
it should be a natural
That's
part
full-
of string like all other languages, not another
That's
yet
full
another
outrage.
built-in function. I would be interested in hearing the discussion on that, because I don't know if internal discussion would have said, oh my gosh, think of all the stuff that we would break by making that change, where people have like string formatting of text that is intended for the next layer up to interpret, and they don't have it double backslashed or like they would need. So no, stop, bad reason to not do it. I'm not coming up with a reason. I'm guessing what a reason might be. But again, from somebody who doesn't really do a lot of most of those things, but actually does a fair amount of escape sequences in other languages. So easy problem to solve. Add a simple indicator to enable new escape sequences. Yeah, a database scope connection or something. I could see that being a way to do it. Nonetheless, we are seeing these. I would assume that we'll be able to see these things land in SQL Server at some point. Maybe vNext, but again, I don't know anything. Things like prefixing the string with capital N for UTF-16, prefix with capital U for Unicode, and that would also allow escape sequences. That could work. I mean, that wouldn't break anything.
That's something that I see in a lot of the exercises with ITSIC on BenCon. Like, I hope I'm not confusing stuff. It's like when there's a varchar in SQL Server, you put an N first, which is not something you do in Oracle.
In varchar, so
that's different. Is that different?
I forget. I know in Postgres there is no differentiation. Varchar and invarchar are actually the same thing, if I remember right. In SQL Server they are different. The capital N is it's national collation, or I shouldn't say collation, national set. This is where Solomon's going to get on me for messing it up, because I'm going to mess it up and probably already have. But yeah, that capital N indicates, hey, you're talking about an invarchar type or an inchar type versus a standard varchar type, which does not have the capital N at the beginning. And in SQL Server, they are very different. They have they're stored differently. There can be significant differences in data length between the two. Invarchar can handle certain character sets that varchar cannot, or certain character sets combinations that varchar could not, I should say, because you can get wacky with varchar, but you can only get wacky with varchar in so many places at one time with one collation. Whereas within varchar, you get a lot more wackiness for your buck.
Yeah, it says like where country equals capital N, 1' USA, 1' semicolon.
Yeah, that's just saying that's an invarchar type. So instead of saving it as varchar, in SQL Server, invarchar is UTF-16 only, 16-bit encoding.
Yeah, that's new to me. I've never done that in my entire life until SQL Server.
That's because it's a SQL Server specific thing. I forget if it exists for anything else, but no, that's not how Oracle or Postgres does it, or MySQL for that matter. So that would explain why you haven't done it before. All right. Our next topic actually comes from Tracy. So we're glad Tracy is here because she came up with the topics.
TB.
And
Great
that
to
is
see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Superlinter.
Yes, I've been MIA.
Yes. Yeah, Tracy's been on secret missions, a series of secret missions across the world.
Just across the state of North Carolina.
What about your black cat?
She went to lay on the floor.
Yeah, she was here earlier.
She was up here a minute ago. You missed it.
Oh, I missed it. Yeah, I was.
You didn't see her. She was here a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a black cat too, so she's a Unicode 8 cat. So
No, she just didn't. She wanted to be on the computer, and I wouldn't allow it.
yeah, I get
So
it.
she went back to her spot.
That makes sense.
Wait, what's her name?
So shall I speak or you speak, Kevin? Either one.
What's your name? What's her name?
Okay. So Quake, like the comic book character off Marvel's The Shield.
Awesome. Jelly Bean is my black cat.
But probably since the last time y'all seen me, I took a new job because I don't think I've been on here since October.
It's been a minute.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. I may have been on here once, but now I'm a developer on SQL Server instead of an admin. So, I get to do lovely things with code, such as, make sure they conform to standards. So I'm looking at linting, hence coming SuperLinter. First off, I found SQL Fluff, which is part of SuperLinter, hence why we ended up over here. But SuperLinter actually will lint multiple programming languages, and it's free. It's on GitHub, which is the great thing. Look, it'll even do application code, does C#, HTML, JavaScript. Transactional SQL is a separate thing, but it incorporates SQL Fluff, and each one of those languages incorporate another project in of itself. And it'll actually do SQL lint instead of SQL Fluff. It has two different ones it does. And so I was just wanting to talk about how people go about like linting their code so it actually, meets standards, because trying to do code reviews is hard.
Okay. So for the idiots in the audience, what in the world is a linter?
Linter is something that like helps you correct your code. It's like this is my basic opinion, is it's like an add-on or extension that looks at your code. And it's very, obviously if you're in like Microsoft Word, it's like grammar or spelling, but a linter for C++ or C# would be very specific to that language. So a SQL linter might be like, you can't do double pipes in SQL Server on-prem, right?
Yeah, it would be like making sure that like the code's formatted, or it doesn't use certain things like /* or any other coding standards that you can actually search for via text. Like if there's certain things you don't want developers to be able to do by default, you can automatically set it up, it'll check it, and then they wouldn't be able to actually check in the code. When they check in the code, it would check it and automatically kick it back to the developer before it gets to the person that has to code review it, so that the person that's code reviewing it doesn't have to tell them that they missed this, like not putting the schema name in front of tables, for example, or not aliasing the columns to whichever tables they come from, different things like that. And then it would kick it back to the developer before it makes it to the DBA team, in my case, has to actually review the code. And that way you save a little bit of time on the part of the people that are actually reviewing the code. So I know DBA Tools has something in place that does this for their PowerShell module. It has to be in a certain format and stuff, or it rejects it. We had something like this in place at DocuSign that rejected our PowerShell code as well. I don't think we had anything that rejected our SQL code, but we definitely had stuff that rejected our PowerShell code there. But just people's opinions, what they use, because I'm getting ready to dive into the world of trying to set this stuff up.
Yeah, and Mike just copied the first paragraph of Wikipedia here, including the references. But yeah, like what Tracy was saying, that look, the linter is going to, it's pre-compiler, like Anders mentions, so it will work with compiled languages, it will work with non-compiled languages. It's intended to find bad behaviors more than stuff that will actively break the compiler. So a programming error that will still compile but is not correct. Say that you're trying to reference something to itself, or many types of bugs. So you're trying to free memory that you have not allocated, or you're finishing a method without deallocating memory. Those sorts of things. And in the SQL Server world, we have SQL lint, like Tracy mentioned, and also SQL fluff, which does handle a variety of languages, including Transact SQL. So we can see some examples, I guess. Looks like this is all Python. And most likely, we're gonna see how this works. So we have a bad query. It's got a star. It's got a column with no name. And blah as foo, which is kind of dumb, but okay. From my schema.mytable. So we lint the things, and the idea is that we'll call the lint function, and it will give us some results, a list of results of these are the problems. So this could be automated to send shame emails to devs. It absolutely could.
Man, Anders.
Yeah, that way you can set up rules and stuff and not have to, constantly tell the basics. And then they learn because they keep getting rejected on the same things or multiple things, whatever. And then, the code all looks the same, has the same standards, and you move forward. It's kind of like a automated SQL prompt. A SQL prompt basically picks up the basics and highlights them. A linter would that's basically what SQL prompt is a linter. Well, one of those features is a linter.
So SQL prompt is different than SQL lint?
Yes.
Yeah, SQL prompt, yes.
Yeah, SQL prompt
does a lot of different things, but in a way it has a linting feature in it by telling you that it'll tell you when you don't put your schema names. It'll expand out your select stars for you, or it'll point out that you're using a select star. It has a code analysis thing it does. And that's sort of what a linter kind of does, is look at the pattern of code and tell you when you're not using certain things and you should be doing something else.
Right.
And it's a Redgate paid feature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does a lot of other things as well. So it formats your code for you and shows you table schemas and does IntelliSense for you. So it does more than just the linting part.
Right. So technically SQL prompt is not a linter. Linters are static code analysis.
Yeah.
Meaning you're not actively changing this code. You're running the code analysis on a given set of code. Whereas SQL prompt, as you're typing things, can provide additional insights, additional context, or modifications. So
the ideal would be is if you had SQL prompt as like a tool, you would set up the same rules as the linter.
Right.
That way it did stuff for you in SQL prompt. You wouldn't get tagged by the linter when you submitted the code.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like there is the ability to call a fix function to automatically fix specific rules.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to
My bad.
parse statements and do other things. So, Tracy, you've used SQL Fluff before, or are using it now?
I have. I'm getting ready to play with it. I haven't used it yet.
7,000 stars. That's a lot based on the stuff that I look at.
Oh yeah, they have a very large
It's a
number of
lot.
downloads. They apparently have about 1.9 million downloads of the SQL Fluff package. Which,
Yeah, it's heavily used. So, and it's actively being changed. So it's what I want to play with, because like we got pointed to another thing that had one of our people pointed us to like Rabbit AI or something like that, but it doesn't go in Azure DevOps, so can't use that, and it costs money. So why not use this? And it does more than SQL code. So I was thinking if we implemented Superlinter, we can implement the SQL Fluff or the SQL Lint for our part, and the devs could use the C++ for their stuff or anything else. Plus, we would have Postgres, because we are doing some open source Postgres stuff. We have Snowflake and things like that. So we would have the variety of stuff if we went the Superlinter route and forked off and did all the different things.
right.
So I'm sorry. This is when my grandmother said stuff is fancy, she would go like this. So you guys have Snowflake, so I'm assuming that you guys are fancy and have money. Your
Well,
company.
we're in healthcare, so we have our data warehouse in Snowflake.
Yeah, I'm in healthcare, but we're still on-prem.
Well,
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad to be on-prem.
It's not bad to be on-prem.
Snowflake is great until you get the bill. If you don't have to pay the bill, Snowflake is great.
Yeah, Snowflake, and then you got to put in
I
a
know
ticket.
nothing about the bill.
Exactly. You're not paying for it?
I didn't. And it was there before I started, so I know nothing about it.
Right? Yeah, I've heard all good things, but also you want to make a change, put in a ticket.
Yeah, that's all I hear about is tickets. But that was my thinking, is just what people's, talk about linting. Because I know Mall at one point was paying with Script DOM. I
yeah.
can't say it right. I was trying to get the D in there. It wasn't coming out for similar stuff. But this is already written.
Yeah. So, I did like this rule. SP underscore prefix should not be used. Actually,
Kevin
you know what?
like does not like stuff. He's like,
I don't like the description.
That is a good rule.
Well, there's passive voice. Can't you go 5 words without passive voice, technical writers? Do not use SP underscore prefix for user-defined stored procedures in T-SQL. That's active voice. Command. That's even command voice.
Yeah, that's what people don't like, is it sounds like you're commanding them.
Well, yeah, because it's a dumb thing. Stop doing it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 is their alternative in here. Hey, you could instead use USP underscore, which is actually what my company is doing, because
my question is why do they have it in all caps? But anyway,
well,
that would annoy, because some of the devs will actually go and put it in all caps, because if it spits it out in comments in all caps, some devs will think it has to be in all caps. Just,
Are you talking about line 47 where it says create procedure?
44.
Yeah, line 47 here. So line 44 is all caps USP underscore. Line 47 is USP underscore with lowercase.
I'm just saying if you print it out to the developer in all caps, it should be, and you put all caps, that's the way they're going to think they have to do it. I don't know which way it's printing it to the developer here, but if you actually print it to the developer in all caps, some of them are going to put it in all caps. And then that would annoy me.
Right. Well, so that's so funny you say that because this is a big thing because in Oracle we were kind of all uppercase, and then we're in SQL Server we're kind of mixed case and pretty adamant about it. So no, I
you
appreciate
yell
that
at
feedback.
you yell at people in Oracle?
No, I don't.
Just saying.
I don't yell.
If you're all caps,
I mean,
that's yelling.
No,
who doesn't?
yeah, because well, because Oracle handles it differently, I think. And so I think, yeah, that was just like one of our code standards for Oracle. But like everything is mixed case in our environment. I'm not saying this is all true of SQL Server, but
Yeah, I preferred mixed case or just using underscores instead of all caps.
Man, capitalization is about as uninteresting as tabs versus spaces. I mean,
Yes, it is, but that's just preference. It doesn't have to be that way.
Anders,
how
have
about
to buy you a beer or something.
how about spelling
It has its own
capitalization?
folder.
Yeah, but it's
They're from
foreignly
Europe.
spelled.
They're from Europe. They're from another country.
I
They're
know
not from America. What can we
it's
say?
foreignly spelled. Okay,
America spells everyththing wrong.
Is he? All
Everything
right.
with a
is
Z
Anders
wrong.
that is
Anders
factually incorrect.
declaring war? Is Anders declaring? Anders, are you declaring war on Shop Talk?
No, he's
Well,
saying that.
Anders' name is spelled wrong too. It should have a Z at the end.
So Anders is
And it
actually
should
just
have a
saying.
Z in the middle. His names are spelled wrong. It doesn't have Z's in it.
Well, Anders is just saying was in German, the past tense of to be. So var. D Bart D. I mean, nobody who speaks German could be that bad. So
I only know how to count to 10.
anyhow. Anders F. Kennedy here. And so all I got to say is people who spell capitalization with an S have never won an SEC championship. And I'm going to talk about significant volume of data stolen from hundreds of Snowflake customers because Anders did bring it up twice. And I don't think we talked about this because basically Snowflake started off by saying this was the customer's fault. And then it looks like, I don't know, may or may not be just customers doing dumb things, which is still interesting. It's interesting seeing what's going on. So obtaining login credentials through information stealing malware is the headline here. And so researchers from Mandiant, all right, they've identified 165 customers whose data may have been stolen in the spree. Maybe don't let your customers do dumb things. I mean, that would be tough. That would be tough. Santander, Spain's biggest bank, said recently data belonging to some of its customers has been stolen. Same group advertising the Ticketmaster data offered the sale of Santander data. So, the question would be, was it that all of these big customers all had the same flaws that were totally unrelated to Snowflake, or was it a Snowflake problem? So Mandiant's Monday Post said that all the compromises they've tracked have been as a result of login credentials for Snowflake accounts being stolen by InfoStealer malware and stored in vast logs. I mean, again, I don't know if this is were available from historical InfoStealer infections. So it's a tough question for whether or not this was actually a problem from Snowflake or a problem of hundreds of customers who have had problems. Like they screwed it up, which Either one could be possible. So I don't want to criticize Snowflake here because I don't know enough information. And could it be that 150 plus large organizations all screwed up? Yeah, it could.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Do any of the three of us own Snowflake stock? I don't,
not that I'm aware of.
but it is a publicly traded company.
But impacted accounts did not have MFA enabled. Okay, I mean that's a problem. Credentials were still valid years after they were stolen and had not been rotated or updated. That's a problem.
Ooh, this is bad.
No network whitelisting in place. That's a
Okay.
problem. I mean, these are all
Yep.
pretty standard don't be dumb things that a
Yeah.
lot of companies skip because it's like 5 minutes of extra work. Oh my gosh, I have to use MFA. I have to use a token. I have to get my phone out and push a button.
Yeah, MFA is an easy win for security. I mean, geez.
Yeah. Or changing your service passwords once in a while, which I know it's annoying, but that's why you get a tool, LastPass, KeyPass, any sort of password managing solution, and you're fine.
So on that, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So one of the things that happened is like one of the things that we did here at a large institution is a very long. If you have a very long password, it can be your forever password. So you probably know more about it than I do, but so there was a whole push for where I work to have a password that is very long. And if you do that, then that's your password forever.
Yeah, I'm giving it the thoughtful
So it
face
could be like
just
a
because.
sentence. It could be a sentence.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Where the longer the phrase, the harder it is to crack, regardless of how challenging it is. It could be a fairly simple mnemonic concept that fits in your head quite easily. It could be a sentence from your favorite book or something. As long as it's not incredibly common, then it probably won't show up in a dictionary. And so that's absolutely a viable strategy. The only reason I give it the side eye is that you probably still want some level of rotation, especially for
Gotcha.
service accounts, because there is a chance that some sort of logging malware has grabbed the password. And so you would want to change it occasionally. There's less of a risk due to it's probably not in a dictionary and it's probably too long for an attacker to feasibly reverse engineer what that password is if all they have is a hash table of your password hash. Then, in that case, you probably don't have to change it nearly as frequently. So it's that compromise between the old advice of change every 90 days, I think was dumb. It guaranteed that people would write
Right.
down their passwords.
right.
The
Password _1, password
Right.
_2, password _3. Yeah.
Yes. The other problem is that, things do actually steal passwords. They do steal credentials over time. And Anders brings up GMSA, which is a great solution if you're in a scenario where you can use that for things like service accounts or in Azure using managed identity accounts, using service accounts that don't have passwords so you don't steal passwords. And that is a better solution because you don't have a password to remember. So that kind of a scenario is fine. And to the extent of if you have a really good password, yeah, you don't have to change it that frequently. I think it's still worth changing it once in a while, but you don't have to change it every 90 days. Maybe every 2 years or 1 year. Especially if it is an external service. If you're talking about 80 accounts inside a network, I don't know if you have to change it that much. Or go with a passwordless option. Use a YubiKey. Use some other mechanism to allow for authentication using a device that you have versus a password that you know. And so Mike's dropping the link for group managed service accounts. Speaking of Anders, actually the last thing that I want to cover tonight, I know we're at time, so we're gonna wrap things. This week, there are actually a couple of episodes of the SQL Data Partners podcast that we're recording. So, sneak preview, a certain Norwegian turned American fellow is going to be...
Anders is on SQL Data Partners?
He is going to get an official interview.
Ooh, party time!
I hope to sneak in one particular question that I don't know if I want to give him advance warning of it, but...
No, don't do it.
See how he's on his feet. See how he does on his feet.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Oh man, I was confused. Yep. No, he's.
Oh wait, you've already pre-recorded it?
No. We're going to record it this week.
Yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna.
Andrew's just confused. I get that.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. But be on the lookout for that. It may take a little while for that episode to come out. Carlos Chacon releases them on his own schedule. And
it's a secret trail. It happens when it happens.
That's right.
Was Eugene on it?
I don't know. It hasn't recorded yet. We don't record until Wednesday.
It hasn't been recorded yet.
I'm sorry. You guys, you and Eugene are hilarious. I'm complimenting everyone because you guys are awesome.
Will Eugene have been on it? Maybe.
Eugene rocks.
Stay tuned and find out. So now we wrap things up for tonight. Suppose I should go listen to some of the podcasts just to see what it's all about. I mean, it's easy. It's a discussion. There's a discussion. There are some questions. A few questions.
A mystery question.
Yeah. Plus my mystery question that has never been asked before on Shop Talk or on a SQL Data Partners podcast. You can do 2 hours on AGs with no prep. It's not even that difficult. So, anyhow, stay tuned for all of that. Tomorrow, in person, we will be in person at Tech Systems. David Klee will be presenting to us. David is going to present remotely, but you have to be in person to watch David Klee present about covering your assets. So check that out tomorrow, Tech Systems. You can get the link at meetup.com/tripass. And then next Tuesday, we have our BI and data science meetup. And that has Armando Lacerda, as I recall, who's going to talk to us about Microsoft Fabric Spark Compute. So
awesome.
Stay tuned for those. 2 great sessions coming up for us at TriPass. Hope to see you tomorrow. If we don't see you tomorrow, well, until we do see each other at some future time, everyone, take care.